Hello, welcome to Astronautics for Exploit. I am Dr. Ayanshola Ogundele and I will be presenting how to orbit LEO economic companies. The overview of my presentation is as follows: how to orbit and how to orbit LEO economic companies. Space, the expanse that exists beyond Earth and its atmosphere and between celestial bodies, is a new economic frontier. The advent of high-altitude balloon flights in the 20th century marked the commencement of the space exploration. Manned rocket flights and crewed space stations in the low Earth orbit followed suit after the successful high-altitude balloon flights. High cost and risky nature of putting objects, including humans, into space made human spaceflight to be limited to the low Earth orbit and the Moon, the Earth's natural satellite, used as a passive communication satellite. Out-of-orbit LEO economic companies and major players are great contributors to the global space industry, which was projected by the Morgan Stanley to be a $1 trillion industry. Proximity of low Earth orbit to Earth makes it useful for various purposes. LEO is commonly used for satellite imaging because being near the Earth's surface allows it to take images of higher resolution. LEO is the orbit used for the International Space Station because of its nearness to the Earth, and which makes it easier for astronauts to travel to LEO from Earth and from LEO back to the Earth at a shorter time and distance. Effective and continuous space exploration and utilization have been hindered by the cost of accessing space. Recent activities on developing reusable launch vehicles technologies, increasing investors' interest in funding space endeavors, satellite miniaturization, and interest in space research and development, and reduction in the cost of launching spacecraft from the Earth to the low Earth orbit using launch vehicles are the openers for the low Earth orbit economic opportunities. Spacex, founded in 2002 by Elon Musk, helped to usher in a new era of commercial spaceflight from Earth to LEO and beyond. SpaceX was the first private company to successfully launch and return a spacecraft from Earth orbit, and the first to launch a crew spacecraft and dock it with the International Space Station. In order to make spaceflight affordable, SpaceX developed its first orbital launch vehicle, known as Falcon 1 rocket, a two-stage liquid fuel rocket designed to send small satellites from Earth into orbit. Falcon 1 rocket was cheaper to build and operate. New Glenn, a single configuration heavy lift launch vehicle, named after astronaut John Glenn and designed to be reusable, is a heavy lift orbital launch vehicle designed by Blue Origin. New Glenn is capable of carrying people and payloads routinely to Earth orbit and beyond. Virgin Orbit, a company within the Virgin Group, provides launch services for small satellites. Firefly Aerospace is developing launch vehicles for commercial launches to orbit. All these Earth-to-orbit LEO economic companies are aiding evolution of the LEO economy, which is based on the production, distribution, and trade of goods and services within the low Earth orbit. Earth to orbit. Spacecraft launching from Earth to orbit. From Earth, spacecraft are launched into low Earth orbit in space using launch vehicles. A satellite design must be compatible with a launch vehicle to be used to propel it into space from Earth into the LEO. Rocket launch vertically to get out of the thick lower atmosphere as quickly as possible. In the same way that gravity keeps the Moon in orbit around the Earth, gravity keeps spacecraft in low Earth orbit. This picture shows SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch vehicle. LEO's proximity to Earth. Proximity of LEO to Earth makes it useful for various purposes. It is commonly used for satellite imaging because being near the Earth's surface allows it to take images of higher resolution. LEO is the orbit used for the International Space Station, as it is easier for astronauts to travel to LEO from Earth and from LEO back to the Earth at a shorter distance. This picture shows Virgin Orbit small satellite launcher. There are various stages of launching satellite. Stage 1. The first stage of launch vehicle contains rockets and fuel for lifting the satellite, along with launch vehicle from ground. Stage 2. The second stage of launch vehicle contains smaller rockets. These are ignited after completion of first stage. They have their own fuel tanks in order to send the satellite into space. This picture shows Obey's second stage engineering prototype of the orbital rocket for sending small payload into low Earth orbit. Stage 3. The third upper stage of the launch vehicle is connected to the satellite fairing. The fairing is a metal sheet which contains the satellite. The fairing protects the satellite. Stage 4. Satellite is separated from the upper stage of launch vehicle when it reaches the Earth's atmosphere. After then, satellite will go to a transfer orbit. This orbit sends the satellite higher into space. This picture shows Firefly Alpha lifting off the pad on September 2nd, 2021. Out-of-orbit LEO economic companies. A number of companies are involving in out-of-orbit activities, and these activities are helping in improving LEO economy companies and also contributing to the evolution of LEO economy. The companies are Spacex, Blue Origin, Blue Ethique, Boeing, Rockstar, Virgin Orbit, Space, Rocket Lab, United Launch Alliance, Lockheed Martins, Vector Launch, Horbex, Spaceflight, CubeCap, and Firefly Aerospace. Out-of-orbit transportation companies are companies that specialize in the transportation of astronauts and space tourists to low Earth orbit and launching of satellites into LEO for various purposes. Contribution to LEO. The out-of-orbit companies' revenue from the transportation and launching are helping in the evolution of LEO economy. This picture shows Virgin Orbit Launcher 1 for launching small satellites. Spacex. Founded in 2002 by Elon Musk, helped to usher in a new era of commercial spaceflight. It was the first private company to successfully launch and return a spacecraft from Earth orbit, and the first to launch a crewed spacecraft and dock it with the International Space Station. The video here shows SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch. Out-of-orbit endeavor of SpaceX Falcon 1. In order to make spaceflight affordable, SpaceX developed its first orbital launch vehicle, known as Falcon 1 rocket, a two-stage liquid fuel rocket designed to send small satellites from Earth into orbit. Falcon 1 rocket was cheaper to build and operate than its competitors. This picture shows liftoff of Falcon 1 Flight 4 on September 29, 2008. SpaceX out-of-orbit endeavor Falcon 9. SpaceX developed, designed, and manufactured Falcon 9, a reusable two-stage rocket for the reliable and safe transport of people and payloads into Earth orbit and beyond. Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital-class reusable rocket, and this enables SpaceX to fly and refly the most expensive parts of the rocket, which in turn drives down the cost of space access from Earth orbit. This picture shows SpaceX Falcon 9 Block 5 on its inaugural flight. SpaceX out-to-orbit endeavor Falcon Heavy. Falcon Heavy, the most powerful operational rocket in the world by a factor of 2, has the highest payload capacity and ability to lift into orbit from Earth nearly 64 metric tons, about 141,000 pounds. SpaceX is an Earth-to-orbit LEO economic company. Falcon Heavy cost per launch for reusable $90 million, for expendable $150 million. All these are contributing immensely to the evolution of LEO economy. This picture shows Falcon Heavy demo mission. Blue Origin out-to-orbit endeavor New Glenn. New Glenn, a single configuration heavy lift launch vehicle named after astronaut John Glenn and designed to be reusable, is a heavy lift orbital launch vehicle designed by Blue Origin. New Glenn is capable of carrying people and payload routinely to Earth orbit and beyond. This picture shows Blue Origin's heavy lift New Glenn launch vehicle. Blue Origin out-to-orbit endeavor New Shepard. New Shepard is a vertical takeoff, vertical landing, crew-rated suborbital launch vehicle developed by Blue Origin as a commercial system for suborbital space tourism. Blue Origin is an Earth-to-orbit LEO economic company. Proceeds from the launching of New Glenn and New Shepard will help in improving LEO economy. This picture shows Blue Origin New Shepard. United Launch Alliance out-to-orbit endeavor Atlas V. Atlas V is an expendable launch system and the fifth major version in the Atlas launch vehicle family. It was originally designed by Lockheed Martin, now being operated by United Launch Alliance, a joint venture between Lockheed Martin and Boeing. The starting price for launching Atlas V rocket from Earth to orbit is about $109 million. This makes ULA a good contributor to the LEO economy. This picture shows Atlas V carrying NASA's orbital. Virgin Orbit out-to-orbit endeavor Launcher 1. Virgin Orbit, a company within the Virgin Group, provides launch services for small satellites. On January 17, 2021, Air-launched Launcher 1 rocket was launched from Cosmic Girls and successfully reached orbit and deployed 10 CubeSats. Virgin Orbit as an Earth-to-orbit LEO economic company. Launcher 1 cost per launch is about $12 million. This makes Virgin Orbit a good contributor to the LEO economy. This picture shows Virgin's Launcher 1 rocket, the first all-liquid fuel air-launched orbital rocket launched from under the wing of a 747 aircraft. Orbital ATK out-to-orbit endeavor Next Generation Launching. Orbital Sciences Corporation, which specializes in the designing, manufacturing, and launching of small and medium-class space and launch vehicle systems for various customers, merged with Alliant Tech Systems to create Orbital ATK, which in turn was purchased by Northrop Grumman. Revenue from the launching of Next Generation Launcher will help in the evolution of LEO economy. This picture shows artist conception of Orbital ATK Next Generation Launcher. Rocketstar out-to-orbit endeavor Starlord. Rocketstar is a New York-based company that is developing 3D printed aerospike engines for small launches. They started with the Chopper, a small low-orbit rocket, and have now introduced the two-stage Starlord, capable of putting about 310 kilograms into a 450 kilometers orbit. This picture shows Rocketstar launch vehicle Starlord. Rocket Lab out-to-orbit endeavor Electron. Rocket Lab is a small satellite launch service provider who is developing a suborbital sounding rocket named Athia and currently operates a lightweight orbital rocket known as Electron, which provides dedicated launches for small satellites and CubeSats. Rocket Lab's configurable Photon spacecraft enables missions from low Earth orbit through to planetary destinations. This picture shows a Rocket Lab Electron booster carrying satellite. Vector Launch, Earth Orbit Endeavour. Vector Launch, formerly Vector Space System, is a space technology company which aims to launch suborbital and orbital payloads. Vector Launch is focused on suborbital and eventually orbital flight. The company plans to provide launch services with two rockets, the smaller Vector R and the larger Vector H. This picture shows flight test of P19H engineering model of Vector R. Space Earth Orbit Endeavour Echo Rocket. Space, which builds rockets, high-altitude balloons, and unmanned aerial vehicles, is developing a three-stage semi-reusable steam power rocket called Echo Rocket. This picture shows Space launch vehicle. HOBEX, Earth to Orbit Endeavour Prime. Orbital Express Launch, also known as HOBEX, is developing a small commercial orbital rocket called Prime for small satellite launches. This picture shows an artist's depiction of the HOBEX Prime satellite launch vehicle. CubeCap, Earth to Orbit Endeavour 3D printed rocket. CubeCap is a provider of launches to low Earth orbit for 3U CubeSats for a launch cost of about $250,000. By focusing exclusively on 3U CubeSats, CubeCap plans to make it less expensive and faster to get payload to orbit. This picture shows jets that CubeCap plans to use to put large number of CubeSats into orbit with using a small 3D printed rocket. Firefly Aerospace, Earth to Orbit Endeavour Alpha. Firefly Aerospace develops launch vehicles for commercial launches to orbit. The Alpha vehicle developed by Firefly Aerospace is an expendable launch vehicle with about 1,000 kg payload capacity to low Earth orbit and 600 km to sun-synchronous orbit. Projected launch cost is about $15 million per launch. This picture shows Firefly Aerospace maiden flight of Alpha launch vehicle on September 2, 2021. Spaceflight Inc. Earth to Orbit Endeavour Rideshare. Spaceflight specializes in organizing rideshare space launches of secondary payloads. It is a premier launch services and mission management provider offering routine, cost-effective access to space. It is dedicated to serving the small satellites market and opening space for everyone. Prices of low Earth orbit launches are $145,000 for 3U, $295,000 for 3U, $595,000 for 12U. This picture shows Spacex rideshare launch. For more information, contact Astronautics for Exploit. The cost of access to space is the major deterrent in space exploration and space utilization. The reusable launch vehicle is the solution to the low cost, and this is making it reliable and on demand for space access. Reusable spacecraft is a class of spacecraft that have been designed with repeated launch orbit, deorbit, and atmospheric re-entry in mind. This is in contrast with conventional spacecraft, which are designed to be expended. Earth Orbit LEO economic company and major player, they are great contributors to the global space industry, and they are contributing immensely to the evolution of LEO economy. You've been watching and listening to Earth Orbit LEO economic companies. Thank you.